another show, an episode here, the Life School Masterclass show with your host, Elona. I'm so blessed to be able to be connected with Andy here today, a great expert at really turning or ensuring that our leaders are productive in our company. I know that's like a big focus for a lot of us that obviously are running companies with team. It's important to understand how to turn our managers into leaders. So Andy Neillie is a best-selling author, speaker, and business owner. And Dr. Andy is passionate about turning managers into leaders. And Andy will jump right into our topic today to grab that audience and to really give people those nuggets that might be missing in their journey of entrepreneurship and growing a legacy company. What are some of the pillars that we talked about as we just started to connect before our interview that we can dive right into today's topic with?
Yeah, well, Elona, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk to your entrepreneurs and your followers. I've been thinking about this stuff for 25 years. There's four things, and there's only four things. If you're going to work with your managers to turn them into high-performing leaders, there's the four leadership necessities that if you can be investing them into yourself as well as your people, you'll rest assured you're giving them the tools they need to become high-performing managers.
I love that. So let's dive right into it. And I'm a big student for patterns. I'm a big student for life experience, gathered, things that have repeated, because I'm sure through your work, you've seen that and kind of sharing those wisdom, that wisdom and nuggets that you will share with us that can really be applied to anyone in any company, and everybody obviously then can personalize and get into implementation mode right away, because just like anything, knowledge is potential power until it's actually applied. So let's jump right into the pillars.
Well, excellent. And I, like you, I look for patterns. Elona, if we're going to be real honest, there's really nothing new about leadership development. You get past Jesus Christ and Marcus Aurelius, and all the rest of us have simply been iterative. But I've been looking for the very patterns you're talking about. I've been interacting with leaders globally for more than 25 years now. What do leaders do that sets them apart from just being managers? It's not in opposition, but it's layered on top of being a manager. And it's really four things. The top performing leaders I work with, first of all, they're people of conviction. They have a bigger picture. They've got strategy and passion. They see the longer game. They've got their eyes up. They're not just focused on their team, their project, their task. They're seeing the competitive landscape. They're seeing market trends. They're people of conviction. Secondly, they're people of competence. If you're going to be a high-performing leader, you've got to be able to get your team to execute. And one of the challenges at times as managers move up in small organizations is the very skills that made them productive here need to go to another level, because now for a leader, it's not about you being the top dog. It's about you making your team able to execute well. So that whole area of having team competence. And then the third one, Elona, and you could talk about this as much as I could. We both know the whole area of character. You'll never be a better leader than you are a person. Fair-minded, honest, other-oriented, that whole character piece that it seems invisible until it's compromised, and all of a sudden that leader loses their right to lead. And then the fourth element, so we've got conviction, we've got competence, we've got character. The fourth one was hard for me to articulate, but here's what I observed. Good leaders, I finally found a word for it about 18 months ago. Good leaders who understand their leadership role, they have a covenant with the people that they influence. Covenant's kind of an old-fashioned word. I'll digress just for a quick minute. I live here in Austin, Texas. Here in Texas, if you're going to get a marriage license, they talk about the marriage covenant. Obviously, love and affection forever and ever, in sickness and in health, for richer and poor. There's the romantic side of I love this person and I want to get married. There's also a formal document that is signed by an officiant and submitted to the Secretary of State. There is both a formal and a personal relationship. And when I look at good leaders that are building high-performing teams, I recognize part of it is they've got the formal performance. Hey, we've got numbers we have to meet. We've got expectations. We've got strategies we need to implement. Even if we're an NGO or a nonprofit, we've got mission fulfillment that's critical to us. But then, Elona, you and I could both tell stories to your followers of leaders that we've worked with where, that team member needed another 3 weeks of PTO because their parent was struggling with cancer and they needed to go home and deal with some things. And it took them beyond HR policies and outside the handbook, but the good leader made it happen because they were leading not just the formal side, but they were putting people first as well. That whole area of, I have a
Mm.
relationship that is both formal and personal. So I've been looking at folks like you for a long time now. Conviction, competence, character, covenant. I think that's that simple grid. Simple to articulate, challenging to execute on.
Well, I love all four, and I specifically love the human value one, right? Because again, our people learn from our behaviors, the way we carry ourselves, the way we lead, right? The way we're able to also remove ourselves and become bottlenecks a lot of the times in the process,
Right.
especially as your company scales and expands, and your purpose scales and your profit scale. It seems like sometimes leaders are always faced with that,
Exactly.
the bottleneck leadership, let's call it that, where they're kind of just leading
They're in
from
their
top
own way.
down. Exactly. So let's get into the productivity mode. So then once we have a couple of leaders aligned, based on the mission and vision of our company, how is it that we can get ourselves out of our way, so that leaders are there to, help us business develop just as much as we are involved in the founding of the company?
Well, and for the entrepreneurs that you work with, I mean, that is the big challenge of getting out of their own way. And they were the ones that saw what could be done and sacrificed to make it happen. But now as they grow, they've got to recognize, I need to balance risk with opportunity. And I've got to let go of some things. All of a sudden, I need to see myself at the bottom of the pyramid rather than the top of the pyramid. I've got to let go of decision making at times. I've got to let go of budget at times. I've got to let go of marketing at times. If I've really brought the right people in, I have to risk that they may do it differently than I would see. And at times, they're going to make learning mistakes. That's part of the risk as entrepreneurs scale and grow their teams, is they have to be willing to let go. The balance of risk and effectiveness. Ilona, you and I could talk about that for 10 of these podcasts, and I'm never sure we'd get it right, because it's always measured. And at the end of the day, you're not going to know, was that risk worthwhile or not, until afterwards. I think that's the big thing.
Yes.
Big thing we need to learn. It's risky to give people control and power, but if we're going to grow, we have to.
We absolutely have to, and courage is absolutely a muscle that we can build over time. And to each his own. Everybody's obviously, we're always weighing out the risks, right? I mean, it's not like anybody goes head away and be like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think with experience also, you get to be more strategic and intentional
Yeah.
with a lot of the things that you're doing. But leading, for the outcome and not the task. I think that's been some of my biggest success with expanding my own teams and the people that I've been able to support. But because people are smart, they have gifts, they have experience, they have talent. So leverage that, right? You don't want to be the mastermind behind everything that you are doing in your company.
Yeah, paint that picture of the outcome you just talked about, and then give them permission to
Are
move
you looking
forward.
to expose your brand, your purpose, and your profit alignment this year? That I want to introduce you to our C-suite program here at the Life School speaking program, where you will be connected every week with free, paid TEDx podcasts, speaking opportunities to other aligned audiences. You'll also be participating in our weekly and monthly events here at the Life School, with the reach of an audience of over 30,000 entrepreneurs and high-level CEOs. Also, you will be warmly introduced to high-level connections every month, where you can add amazing people to your network and be able to land new clients, but also be able to collaborate. Lastly, you'll also be featured in our global magazine and be an ongoing contributor to our magazine, so that you can reach new people and also expand your brand and purpose and profit alignment. New benefits are always being added to our community C-suite membership program. For more information and for ways to register, you can participate with a 30 days free trial, so you could see the community for yourself and then make a decision if you'd like to join as a member. I want to invite you to go to lonalaparrycoaching.com/C-suite program for more information. All right, Andy, back to our regular programming. So I
Uh,
would love for you to finish that thought. I think you were saying something before the video was playing there.
well, we've been talking about measured risk, and your point about good high performing leaders, they point toward the outcome, but they don't point toward how to get there, and they risk the path for their people. And I think you wisely said, and as you and I gain more experience, we become wiser in how we delegate that risk. Although we have to be real honest, Elona, in the last 4 years, all of the rules have changed, and and sometimes we can't measure that risk ahead of time. You and I hear regularly of all of the success stories. There's a lot of pain and scarring and challenges that proverbial phrase, it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. I'm one of those. My wife and I own some local retail businesses. We've been doing it for 15 years. We didn't hit our stride until 11 or 12 years in. It took that long to start figuring things out. So we
Mm.
hear all the wonderful stories. Um, Risk is challenging. It's going to be longer and harder and more expensive than people think. And yet somehow we still make it through to the other side.
I love that you share that, Andy, because I'm a big believer of that as well. I believe that it's more important about, the experience of who we become than obviously the successes and the wins, because we're going to have those no matter what. If we apply ourselves and we're disciplined and our purpose is clear, why we do what we do, and it's always bigger than us. And that journey of just becoming, I really don't think that most people share enough about that. Mostly you hear about wins and successes. So it's
Yeah.
always become my mission with my content, be able to share behind the scenes of what it takes to actually, become the person and gain the experience that we need, and how to shift a lot of those different mindsets that we need. And every new level of growth is really required for new inner work to be done, that's kind of
Yeah.
coming up, new ways of thinking that kind of just have to be let go, and kind of almost like reinstall our computer with new information, new ways to think about
Good
things.
way to put it. Good way to put it.
It's the way that you also said it. I am a big believer that we got to be relevant and we got to always be learning, because you never know. You turn around something that, worked like a month or 2 months ago is no longer, or something else that's better has become. So we always have to evolve our business
Yeah.
model, and don't be afraid of that. I
No.
think that's another beautiful piece of us being innovators and leaders as well. At
Well,
the
and
end.
that's where I think these four leadership necessities can anchor us as we build our businesses, because we've got to remain agile, as you were just talking about. The rules are constantly changing in big ways and in little ways. But if we can continue to think, am I thinking strategically? Am I looking at the big picture? Am I being a person of conviction? Am I investing in my team to help them become more competent? And then, the couple of ones that you and I will impact the world through our character and our covenant, and that the balance as entrepreneurs, as emerging business leaders, of how do I put my people first while still making sure that we've got a viable future? How do I plan for my own exit strategy while I'm spending all my extra bonus money to keep and train high performing people? There's a there's a dynamic equilibrium that I don't think we ever fully answer. We wrestle with that on an ongoing basis of putting my people first while I plan for retirement, putting my people first while I make sure I take care of my family, putting my people first while I make sure that I've got the resources to pivot if I need to. That's an ongoing tension I think we all wrestle with.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. I mean, I love the three P's, right? With everything we do, passion first, because without that, we don't have enough juice or energy to put
Yeah,
into this, to grow a company with all the moving pieces that sometimes it feels like we're always managing. And then people and purpose, right? And maybe purpose, will come second after passion, purpose, people, because obviously all those three things connect.
right.
But I love that you mentioned that, Andy, because I say it all the time. I always find myself intuitively also going into the future of what I'm building, into the present moment, delegating, making the right decision into implementation, and then going back in my past to kind of connect those dots between, wait a
Yeah,
minute, there's things that keep repeating. So we
yeah,
got to pay attention. We're always in this kind of
right,
role of kind
right.
of bridging the gap between all
Exactly.
of those three
Yeah,
things. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit around your purpose, because we love purpose here. I mean,
yeah.
Purpose is
Although the
defined.
interesting thing is I would challenge some of your followers, Elona, purpose and passion, they grow over time if you invest yourself. My wife and I, you can see over my shoulder, one of my books is about the leadership lessons from the life of our rescued dogs. My wife and I have been rescuing dogs for most of the years of our marriage. Elona, if you had told me early on in our marriage that my one bestseller would be about our dogs and that dogs would consume our life, and we go to the local rescue groups and we donate and we're involved, I would have said, well, I like animals, but that passion has grown over time now. And I think that's one of the encouragements that I find sharing with a number of young entrepreneurs. You know what? Invest yourself deeply. That passion emerges as you invest yourself deeply in something. If you're not a person of great passion, don't feel like you're not qualified to lead. Invest yourself and that passion emerges, I think. I know it has for me in at least a couple of areas.
I love it. Staying open to the journey, right?
Yeah,
Staying
yeah,
open to
exactly
the
right.
journey. Because I could say the same thing about my own journey. I never would have thought that I would be doing the things that I'm doing now when I
Yeah,
left my corporate job of
you
13
just
years, right?
yeah,
You just
yeah,
got to stay open because there are a lot of surprises in store for you, which you
that's
don't
right.
even know. But the only way, obviously, to get clear on that is to take right aligned action and, always be learning and align ourselves with the right people that are
Exactly right.
further ahead. But
Exactly right.
something will hit you. That's what start to connect. And now that's our
Yeah,
ability to be able to see all those different things and then put them towards in use towards our purpose. I've seen pain a lot, absolutely. A lot of our challenges and pain turn into purpose, but I love that passion can also turn into purpose, and that's more on the positive end.
yeah,
Because unfortunately, sometimes we'll let the things that happen to us, the pain, turn into our purpose, but
yeah,
we can also do the other side, the flip coin. I love this conversation.
yeah.
Andy, I would love to ask you, for some advice around your journey as an entrepreneur that maybe, if you were to talking about pillars today, let's go with the four, right? It keeps,
Yeah.
showing up in our conversation. So what are four of the most impactful lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur? It doesn't have to be about leadership. Any lessons that you really feel like, okay, now that I can give back my knowledge and expertise and experience of what I've learned to somebody else that maybe can connect a few dots for themselves, these would be the four things that I would tell somebody in this journey, to stay the ground and stay, to do the things
Oh,
that
what a
they're doing.
thoughtful
So
question.
what is that?
Yeah, I think they would dive directly back into the four leadership necessities, but I'm not sure one by one by one. One of the things that I'm very aware of today, Elona, is that competence piece um, needs to grow through our entire careers. Uh, I am primarily a consultant. I work on culture, employee retention issues. I help managers stabilize their teams and improve their customer service scores. But I've also grown a local retail business that's become a $5 million business. If you told me 5 years ago, I would know how to read a P&L and a balance sheet and a cash flow statement and make decisions off of that, I would have said, well, that's not really my background. But today that's become an area of competence because I needed to grow in that area as we're hiring and expanding and our local businesses are multiplying. So I would say one of the lessons is always keep growing. Don't think you've ever arrived, and don't be afraid to say, man, I don't know. I got to figure this out because I'm on a journey, as you said, Elona. So one of those would be leaders need to continue to scale up their competence. And then probably at least a second one, I'm not sure I can come up with four, but a second one would be recognize this whole area of character and covenant, that the inner person always comes out. And so who you are as you get a team around you, they're going to see that it's going to squeeze out. There'll be things that pop out. So work on your inner person, that fairness and honesty and other orientedness and selflessness that characterize character rich leaders. Be working on those traits as the inside of your person. Some of the very things you've talked about, Elona. On the one hand, it's like, well, what does my morning discipline of journaling and mindfulness and spiritual disciplines, what does that have to do with me heading into a team meeting later that morning to talk about strategy? the inner person comes out, and those types of personal disciplines that make you a better person ultimately make you a better leader as well. Not trying to come up with any others, but I would say keep growing in conviction, competence, and remember the inner person impacts the outward leadership effectiveness of all of us.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, mic drop, right? I mean, whatever comes up, right? Because I think if things flow naturally, those are really your soul's and your heart's lessons. So, let the mind, let's use the mind for other strategic decisions. But I love all of those. And it goes back to authenticity. I'm hearing from you as well, right? Just, be yourself and have good intentions and pure intentions and lead from within and all of that. The rest will be just byproducts of the actions and the decisions that we all get to make and the people we get to surround ourselves with.
So that you'll never be a better leader than you are a person. I think that's what you and I are talking about.
Yeah, definitely the human being first and then everything else we do, because we get to take ourselves everywhere, in our family, with our friends, in our company, with our partners, with our clients, with our communities, wherever is it that you go, as long as that's, you have that focus, it will absolutely serve you really, really well. And
I have a story on my website. One of my very first bosses, he was a bad boss. He had anger management issues. He wasn't just a bad boss. He was a bad person, right? He just had anger management issues. And it's this very thing you're talking about. It's like his inability to be that person rich in character impacted him. 30 years later, I still remember him as a bad example of leadership.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is the behavior that shows up when there's a lot of inner healing to be done. I don't want to go into more in the, the deeper work here, but we're all good people. We just obviously get programmed with certain things, and we have to be aware, what is it that is no longer serving us. And if you heal the person, then you will just go and you'll just be that blessing, and your light will absolutely impact others in no form that you're able to even understand, because a lot of this, obviously, we just never know how we impact other people unless we sometimes get feedback or we feel the impact that we get to make. Andy, I would love to ask you next. We've actually reached the end of our interview. I was about to say we are so aligned in the work we do that me and you can go on and on, talk about, this topic, and maybe I'll have you back and we can go deeper into certain areas that absolutely will help us with the overall holistic approach of building a healthy company with healthy people and a healthy culture, and that all can actually be done, because sometimes it feels like, well, I don't know if, we can have it all. It's this whole cliche thing that we always hear, but yes, we can, if we understand how to align and connect all those dots in the right way. Where is it that this beautiful audience can further connect with you? Connection here is a great value of ours. So this was just a connection, a starter, I guess, to be able to continue these conversations.
Well, my website would be the place, neillieleadership.com would be all my resources. And then Elona, I have a 8-page ebook that I make available to folks on leadership conversations, the importance of holding hard conversations well, the importance of holding coaching conversations well, and the importance of holding affirmation conversations well. I've got a simple little 8-page ebook that they can download at leadershipmaterials.com, just leadershipmaterials.com. And it also has links to my website. So those would be a couple places that your followers could access some of my work. It's really been a pleasure visiting with you. I think I found a kind of a soulmate here who channels many of the same thoughts that I channel around effective leadership.
Well, likewise, the pleasure is mine. And it's amazing. I mean, to be able to just have this podcast and just have so many amazing people and connections. And, at the end of the day, we're all different, but we can add value to each other by learning from each other's experience. And that was always, my vision behind the Life School, and just creating safe spaces where people could come and be seen and heard, because that's one thing that's so important for a lot of us. And that way we get to create impact. So absolutely. Thank you so much for the service of the resource. I definitely encourage everybody that will listen to this interview to be able to connect with you further. Andy will also be inside our Life School community, so you'll find him there and be able to further connect with him. But definitely check out the resource that he has available as a way to lead with value here today. And again, I want to thank you for everything you share with us, Andy, for all the amazing service and the work that you're doing out there in the world.
Great. Well, my pleasure, Elona. You too. So grateful for the time that we've had together.
Likewise, and I'm always grateful for you watching and supporting, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing the show with other purpose-driven entrepreneurs that are really using their experiences and lives to be able to do more good in the world. I will see you now with another episode and another amazing expert and guest with another topic. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.